focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks.
Welcome to the Wealth on the Beach podcast. My name is Daniel Alonzo, and as always, I'm your host, bringing you some of the greatest minds in the world. We're talking business, money, health, and wealth. And today I have one of my favorite people in the world. His name is Jim Nye, and he is a regional vice president with a financial services company. Matter of fact, he's a national sales director, or senior national sales director. And we are going to have a little conversation today. I'm so excited. I mean, this stud has 110 regional vice presidents. Check out these numbers, okay? I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, him and his wife, Mary, 15 states. He's got $1.7 billion. That's with a B, $1 billion in assets under management, massive passive income, by the way, $100,000 earners in his organization today, 2 7-figure earners in his organization today, Wall of Fame member, one of the original 200 people to get started with his firm. And I just couldn't be more excited and happy to have him on our podcast today. I want you guys to really pay attention, because we're going to talk about history. We're going to talk about the future today. And I think there's a lot of wisdom that my good friend Jim is going to throw into our brains today. And so I'm so excited. Hey, Jim, tell me what's going on, man. You're like Mary is climbing Mount Everest or something like that. Tell me about what that's all about.
We have a full life, I promise you. We have a full life. And so just so excited to be on here. And thank you for asking us to be on here. And so, but yeah, we've just got some exciting things going on. And yeah, we can dive into that. I mean, it's tell
me a little bit about that, man. Like,
it's like, okay, so next week, here's what's going down. Okay, so next week, Mary is involved with a thing called 29029. Okay. And it's a great organization. If you want to Google that, that's the greatest thing. You can learn all about it, etc. But anyway, bottom line is it's a group of highly successful people from a lot of different areas of the world decided to climb Mount Everest. Well, it's not so easy to go to do that, but you can do it in Utah. It's right outside of Salt Lake City in Huntsville, Utah. And it's a basin, snow basin. It's all one word, snow basin resort. And anyway, so it's a great snow resort. And so during the summer, we have an opportunity to go with Jesse Itzler. A lot of people know he's married to
Sarah Blakely.
Sarah Blakely. I keep wanting to say Spanx, but Sarah Blakely. And so anyway, he's putting this on. And so you had an opportunity to be a part of that. Now, you're not really racing against anybody else. You're really just doing it as self-achievement. And that's really what I think is the most exciting part about it. It's just self-improvement. And then it's all with these people that want to go prove something, do something, And so, just so happens that Mary and I both turned 65 this year. And so she wanted to do something completely that take every excuse away from people. And so she's been training, and she looks the best she's ever looked. And she's just ready to climb it. And so you climb it up 2,800 feet, okay, above sea level, above that. And so you go from there 13 times, and then you gondola down. And then at the end, they put a red bib on you, and it's this big celebration of all these top achievers and stuff. And you do glamping, so you got 36 hours to do it, Daniel. You got 36 hours to climb 13 times. So however people want to do that. So we're just looking forward to meeting all kinds of people. And 2 of our children, of our 4 kids, are going to meet us out there. And myself and my other 2 children we have a 43-foot motor coach. And so we're camped at the bottom. And so we're going to be able to, volunteer and just have fun and meet all kinds of great people. So it's going to be fun.
That's wonderful, man. That sounds like a bunch of fun. Hey, Jim, look, I know my audience, they're always loving the fact that I talk about people's upbringing and where they were born and what they were like when they were kids and things like that. And I just, really today I want to get to know you a little bit. And I want to know, first of all, where were you born and what did your parents do?
So I was born in Western Kansas, which is a long ways from the Metro KC area where we're at now. But my parents were farmers. My dad was a second generation immigrant from Luxembourg. And so he didn't speak English and he flunked the first grade twice. He had sickly parents. And so he only made it to the 8th grade. He had a neighbor finally teach him enough English to pass, but he went to 8th grade and then he took over the family farm because my grandparents were sickly. He finally got married at age 29 and then had 8 kids, and I'm on the tail end of 8 kids. So didn't really have blue blood parents. You know what I'm saying? My dad was at age 18. When he passed, I was able to get his deferment card from the military, and he was taking care of 2 households at age 18 because the kids were, the sons were away at war, and so my dad, he just like, if you could get to college, that would be fantastic. You don't have to work manual like, hard labor as farming was back in those days. And but anyway, so we had a great life. We had great parents. I'm one of 7. I have 7 siblings, so there's 8 of us. And we had great parents, just no money. And so Mary and I got married in 1980, but we joined our debts. And so we had $32,500 worth of student loan debt, and that's $90,000 in today's dollars. And so she was a nurse and made more money than I did, and I knew that if we were ever going to have kids in a house, I needed to make more money if she's going to go part-time or something like that. Well, right. We found this company, and then so we started part-time. In 6 months we were full-time. In 24 months, 6 figures, and one office led to another. And so we have 85 physical locations and 110 vice presidents working out of those 85 locations. So
that is awesome. That is really, really awesome. And so growing up, what kind of kid were you? Were you rambunctious? Were you a little bit crazy? Were you more introverted, extroverted? What were you like when you grew up?
I was very extroverted. I always loved meeting people. I was more like my mother. Okay. Loved meeting people, loved learning, couldn't ask enough questions about things. I wanted to figure out how everything worked, and so I built friendships easy. And so that's how I grew up. Played sports in high school, was competitive in that sense. We were a little small town, so you don't just play one sport, you play 3, so that's kind of the how we grew up.
And what did you play? What kind of sport did you play?
Football, basketball, and track. Yeah, I was a long jumper in track.
What were you the best at out of all the sports?
Probably football. Yeah, we played both ways. Okay, so you played offensive guard on offense and then linebacker on defense. So
nice.
I loved being the linebacker. It was great.
And so all of a sudden you get recruited into this. Like, how did you get recruited into this financial business? How'd that happen?
Well, my mom was involved with a multi-level marketing company, and we were at one of their rallies. And so we met this couple. And so we built friendships because they were more successful in that business than us. We were just newly married, and we just like to get pumped up and go to those things, right? Because we love the free enterprise and all that stuff, right? And but we met them, and so we built friendships a little bit with them, and then like 3 months later, he called us and said, "Hey, listen, I'm a school teacher, and I do this other thing, but I want to show you what I'm doing." And so there was a guy named Larry, and so Larry, came over to our house and started laying out how this thing worked, and I was really skeptical, but he really shared with me how bad I was getting ripped off. And I said, somebody's lying here. So I went to the library, started doing some checking, and figured out, okay, we're going to figure this out. And so we did, and the rest is history.
So what type of policy did you have, and how were you getting screwed?
Okay, so we had 3 policies. Okay, so 2, my parents had had just said, I mean, my dad said, okay, you're married now, take these over. And he just slid them across the kitchen table. And so I took them and put them in a drawer, knew nothing about them, right? All I knew is that I did borrow some of the money out of them to go on our honeymoon, right? Unfortunately, 6 weeks before we got married in 1980, my brother-in-law was killed in a car accident. And so after the funeral, we're back living 6 hours from Kansas City. And my boss's golfing buddy, an insurance agent, came by and said, you don't want your spouse to, you don't want to leave your new bride underprotected, do you? And I was like, oh boy. Okay, come on in, so he didn't even have an appointment, right? So we came in and we started discussing stuff, and I thought, well, it's my boss's friend, I better say something, Well, anyway, he robbed out all these other policies to start this new policy. We had no money to start a new one. And so that's kind of how that started.
And so looking back, was it, so you end up getting recruited. And so why do you think you got off to such a fast start? Because it seems like you ran to 100,000 in pretty quick order. How did that happen?
I really got into the crusade, Daniel. Okay. I really got into the war, us against them, because I figured out somebody was lying when it came to these policies. Either my friend Larry was lying or these old insurance people were lying, and it wasn't my new friend Larry, okay? And so these guys were not telling me the truth about the way cash value life insurance worked. We didn't have any universal stuff. It wasn't around yet, but we just had three cash value policies, okay? And so the first thing I found is, okay, when I went to the library, and sure enough, it said, if you bought coverage and invest separately, you do better than if like that, but most people wouldn't invest the difference, okay? And so I said, well, heck, I will. And so then I went to my brothers. I said, hey, you have the same uncle, the same guy from church that sell all this stuff. Come on, let me show you how this stuff works. And they said, are you sure? And I said, well, if anything different, I'll let you know. But right now I'm getting an insurance license, and this state department is telling me it does work this way. And so they said, okay, let's do it, and so that's how it launched. I was a crusader from day one,
So from, and again, I think that's awesome, Jim, because I mean, when I got started, my parents were involved with New York Life Insurance Company, and they were getting ripped off too. They had a whole life policy. They said you're going to have all this money and you're going to have great rate of return. And it was a great retirement and investment. And then we started checking this thing out, and they were only getting like 3% return on their money. And if they ever wanted to take their money out, they were going to be charged all this interest and all that kind of stuff. And then there was a class action lawsuit that was going on at the time. And so I did, when you're explaining your story, I did similar to the same thing. I went to the library. I didn't believe all this stuff. I didn't understand all this stuff. But man, when I started doing my homework, I started to figure out, and I don't know why I'm like I am, but I'm always trying to figure out like what's the best thing to do. And I did my homework. I really studied the numbers, because the one thing I found out is buy term and investing the difference versus a cash value policy is just a mathematical equation. It's always better to buy term and invest the difference. And so I kind of feel like you felt, where I was just like this crusader guy. I just wanted to I wanted to get on the top of the mountain and just tell everybody about what I was doing. And I kind of feel like that's what you did. And so people started saying yes. Is that kind of why you?
They really did, because they could see the passion in my voice. I just said, hey, I smell a rat, and there's somebody's not telling the truth here. And man, I wanted to get after it. And then I started exposing to saying, look, the more experience I got with it, the more I got fired up about, look, they know exactly what they're doing when they're selling this stuff, right? And so that's really couldn't tell it enough times. Yeah.
So I also want to I want your thoughts on this, because look, today's world in financial services, because of technology, is pretty dang amazing. And what I want to hear from you is, back in the days, right? Because you got in what year was it?
I signed my IBA in 1982, got licensed in January of 83. So
that's fantastic. So what I want to know from you is was it harder back then, or is it harder now to build a business in financial services?
I would say it's the same, because back then it was just a different world. Kind of anything could go. Nobody would tell you, the truth, and it was just it's not too much different today, And so back then everything was slow and paper and that kind of thing. I mean, here's the way the system worked. You get a paper app, you do a paper app, you mail it in, something's wrong with it, okay, because you can't just mail in the app. You had to mail in the replacement forms, and the replacement forms had to be filled out right, otherwise they'd kick it back. So 6 weeks later you'd get a snail mail package back, then it wasn't processed, so then you'd mail it again, and so everything was slow. And so then after all that, finally you'd get paid, so and so today it's like, are you kidding me? You just pop on your phone and off you go. So it's like quite a bit different, faster now with technology, but still the world in terms of getting somebody to actually do what we do, I think it's about the same, because either people are motivated to get after something or they're not.
And so when you look back though, as far as, did you ever have challenges with, let's just say, credibility with the company? I mean, it was a fairly new company. At that time, it was only, about 5 years old. So, I mean, really looking back, did you ever, come
So
against enemy agents and people that said you guys were going out of business and things like that? Did you ever have any of that?
Well, and we could talk an hour about that, but at the end of the day, it's like when my first week, here's my first week, Daniel. Okay. So my first week, we get fined in the state of Kansas, like $38,000 or something, because somebody somehow got a one wrong paper application that was supposed to go to Ohio, got to Kansas, and we filled out and tried to apply for insurance on the wrong form. And the insurance guy, well, come to find out that insurance commissioner was in bed with the industry. And so they had bought him later. He got fined and kicked out of the state as the insurance commissioner because some insurance companies had bought him a great big Lincoln and was paying him under the table and stuff like that. And they were paying him to do anything to stop us. And so, it's like, that's all we did was the wrong form got into the wrong hands, and they fined us $38,000, but all the news looked like we were, that was my first week.
So you really had to have some belief in the people that got you started to stay in the game, because, most people, if they found out the company got sued or fined or something like that, they would get all nervous and maybe run away. What was it that kept you going, even though that happened?
I really met the founder, Art Williams, and I met some of the key people, and they were so credible with me. They were just regular people that had a mat on, and they knew everything about the industry, with what they were actually trying to do. And we just kept seeing it over and over and over again, And so it just gave us a lot of confidence to just stay after it, because we knew there was a war here. And we all said we didn't know whether we'd be in business next week or next year. But while this is happening, we're going to try to right or wrong until we're dead, And so it all turned out.
So there's a lot of confidence in the people. Why do you think these guys had so much credibility early on? Was it just the relationships that you were starting to build? It was the fact that you got to be a part of something great. What was it in your?
Yeah, Rusty Crossland was one of the original 7 people that founded the company, and we were just friends with him and Larry, and we'd do things where we'd hang out together and we'd explain stuff, and here's how this would. And we were just kind of like real people talking about real things, and we just became great friends first, and then the business just folded in right behind that. So yeah, I think that was the main thing. Was like they had a lot of personal credibility with me, and that just made more sense. And we just we just never could figure out why it wasn't the absolute right thing to do. So here we are 40 years later.
And so when you look back, it was really the relationships, because we talk a lot about that, how important relationships are, and getting to know your people and loving on them and caring about them, and of course pushing, and always kind of having that attitude of, we're going to push you up instead of treat you like an employee. We're going to teach you, treat you like a friend. We're going to treat you like a like a business partner. And I think that looking back, that probably made all the difference for you early on, because you didn't know anything about anything. You were just getting this thing going. And then this first week happens, and next thing you know, you're going, well, why am I still here? It's because of those relationships that were built. And I think a lot of people forget, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you really recruit anybody, really. I mean, you can fill out their paperwork, but you don't actually recruit somebody until, number one, you have a relationship with them, and number two, you have some people underneath them. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that, no question about that. You build that relationship along the way. But, and there's got to be one other thing that I think is really, really important, Daniel, and that is people, are evangelists, for an experience. I'm just telling you that the opportunity for us back then, it was amazing, because the way Art Williams always put it, and that's what I encourage people today, is like, you've got to help them understand they're a part of something big. And that's what Art Williams kept talking to us about, that if we made it, this is going to be a part of something really, really big. And so, it's like that's really, I think, what people need to know, is that you've got to sell them that they're a part of something awesome and big, and we're changing the world. Back then it was us against the insurance industry. Today, it's building the first Amazon of financial services, truly a distribution model that's unparalleled in the whole world, right? And it's like nobody, my son is an analyst for Airbnb. He was employee 241, okay? And so he was in on the ground floor of kind of how that thing went down, And so it's like, if you think about companies like that, and Uber, and the things that people are connected with today, we were a part of one of the original startups, and being a part of that, it was like, I don't know if we're going to make it, but if we do, this is going to be the biggest, baddest thing. And I think we got to be talking about now is like what we see our company as now. It can get so much bigger and so much better if there's so many things that are possible. And it's moving, and it just it's about ready to explode into a new era with all the new technology that we're playing with.
So I think that's interesting that your son was employee number 241. Is that what you said? So yeah, you were number 200 and he was number 241. So how do you coach your son? I mean, how do you relate kind of the things that you went through, and to the things that he's going through right now, or at least went through? Because if he was in the startup of Airbnb, that was a lot of risk, because who knew that thing was going to take off. So how did those conversations, those dad and son conversations go?
So two things. One is that, when he got out of college, he was already working with us part-time, and he has a 65 license, and he does, stuff with us on the side. And, but in terms of, he said, Dad, look, I'm interviewing with this company over the phone, Airbnb. Have you ever heard of them? And I said, who? He said, Airbnb. He said, some kind of a bed and breakfast thing, I think. And so that was our conversation when he was, going to interview for the first time right out of college, right? And so that's how that. Hey, we have 4 very successful children, okay? And so, my son that's with Airbnb, he's got a twin brother, and that brother has taken a company public in Australia. And so it's a technology company. Anyway, so end of the day, so they had that experience, and then both daughters are in where they work remotely. One is in La Jolla, actually California, and works for a digital marketing company out of there. And then the other one is a PM in for a big pharmaceutical research company. Okay. what does that have to do? What I'm saying is all of them have had technology driving all kinds of things. And so our conversations have always been, hey, so how does that work? Let's learn about that. How would we adapt that to our business? And then over time, we just started evolving where our technology business, our financial services business, blended in. And so it's like, they're like, yeah, this is the way we do it here. It's so interactive because it's so commonplace. And it was easy for us to understand that that was the future. And it's just a matter of how we were going to develop it and when.
And so as a father, I just, because again, I mean, that's pretty impressive for you to create 4 successful kids. And so looking back, what tips would you give? I have a 15-year-old and I have a 19-year-old. And so what sort of tips would you give somebody out there on how to raise great kids, successful kids?
Well, that's still to be told. We're still trying to figure that out, right? How we're going to, but one of the things we always instilled in them that they had to own something. Okay. There might be a lot of good jobs out there, but it's, at the end of the day, you're going to need to own something. And so in every case of our kids, they all own things outside of the business. And so besides their jobs and stuff like that. So becoming owners in their business, as a lot of them own stock and all that kind of stuff. And they've flourished greatly. Okay. And so, anyway, so we just kind of really just always talk to them about ownership and freedom. And as the older they get, the less they like their jobs, you know what I'm saying? So you just kind of have to let them get to that spot. You can't make them want to, love this and do this. I mean, they have to either want to do it or they don't, right? So.
No, I think that's so important. I mean, I think I've done an okay job so far. I mean, obviously a lot's to be seen, but one thing that I'm always talking about is, you have to, again, just like you have to own something. You have to be in charge of your own life, and you have to get skilled up. You have to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to be to be as good as you possibly can be at whatever you're trying to do. And so I think that as a parent, and the other piece of it though, I never told my kids they have to join me in business. I never told my son to go, he decided he wanted to go get licensed. My daughter one day, she may or may not get licensed. I don't know. But I never wanted to be one of those dads that made my kids join me in business or do what I'm doing. I really am excited to see whatever it is that they want to do, to see if the things that they learned as, growing up could help them no matter what they decide to do. And if they all decide to come work with me down the road, that'd be even better. But if they do or they don't, I never want to put the pressure on them that they have to be like me or do my business or anything like that. I mean, am I making any sense here?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we have is a group chat for our all the in-laws and outlaws and mom and myself. And so as we look at this, we're communicating all the time, no matter where we're at in the world, right? And we're foodies, and so we love sharing all that kind of stuff, right? But one of the things that always inevitably happens, Daniel, is they'll text me, said, "Hey, Dad, you'd be proud of me. I used this phrase today." And it's something that we were taught here that they're using someplace else, right? And so because something more is caught than taught, and so you don't know what they're going to remember, but sometimes they'll pull stuff out and say, "Hey, Dad, what do you think of this?" And so it's fun, and we have a heck of a lot together. We travel every year together. We do a couple vacays a year, and so we just got back from Washington State, and we had a 7-bedroom home on Prince Edward Sound. So yeah, it's fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's so much fun. We just actually did a family trip similar in Montana. That's great. So what was it like, just being with your family and thinking about the fact that, because I mean, let's be honest, you're still working, you're still you're trying, you're still building your business, and I think that's awesome. But the truth is, you've been financially independent for a very, very long time. And so I want to ask you, number one, how does it feel to know that you can pretty much do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. And you have the money, the income, the cash flow, the passive income, the assets to be able to do what you want to do. And that you get to do that with your family and for your kids and make those create those incredible memories. What does that feel like, Jim?
I mean, we go out to eat and we have an adult night every time we do those vacays, and so we do adult night, and adult night means that we get sitters for the kids. So we have some adult conversation, eyeball to eyeball with in-laws and outlaws and everybody. Right. So what we, being able to, have a $1,500, $1,800 dinner bill and don't care. You know what I'm saying? That's just what we do, and it's like, don't think anything of it. And
that's
so
little
things
fun.
like that are fun. And, the things we're able to do right now, I mean, we're on a trek. We've got some philanthropy things that we're doing that we're raising our income another 100,000. I mean, honestly, we're going for $1 million. We'll be there in late 2022. Where our rolling 12 will be over $1 million. And so we'll click over that. We've got it all planned out. And so that's really what we're working for. It's not because we need more money or whatever. It's like we kind of went past that. And at our age, most people would say, let it up. It's like, yeah, but I can work from anywhere. And that's the coolest thing, right? So we started off with an 8-state tour, okay, with the motor coach. And so we were in Arkansas, Kentucky, Washington. I didn't take the coach there, but we worked from there. We just got back from Angel Fire, New Mexico, in the mountains there. Then we were in Colorado mountains. Then we were in Maui for a week. And then we're going to Florida here in a few days, right, with the company. And then we're out in Utah here next week as well. So you just work from anywhere. You can pull up a screen and off we go. And so we're growing. It's more fun, and you don't have to be tied to an office or anything. And so I don't know, hope that helps a little bit there.
No. I love hearing that, Jim. I think that's so powerful for the people that are listening or watching right now, that, you really have the ability to create a dream life. What you just explained right now, you take it for granted because, you've been living it for so dang long.
Yeah.
But you understand that is the dream for everyone. That is like what every single person on this planet, pretty much. So they want a life where they get up in the morning, they go, hey, we're going to be over here in this, and we're going to be over here and do a little bit of work over here, work on the beach over here, work in the RV over here, do this. And to be able to create a life, not just build a business, but to build a life around whatever it is that you want to build it around. And so what do you think about that?
My favorite things I get in a text or in an email or some DM or something, it'll be where are you at today? That's my favorite thing to get from people, right? It's like,
I love it. Yeah. Where's Jim? Where's Jim and Mary now? Right. So it's just so cool to be able to live that lifestyle, because that's it kind of takes me over to really the passive income or residual or recurring. I mean, there's a lot of different words for it, but as far as how important is it, and how long have you been earning residual and reoccurring income, and what's that like, and how important is that for people to understand that having a job is never going to give you that kind of life? It's really the passive and reoccurring income that's going to give you that life. I mean, what do you say about that?
Yeah, and so I think a little bit different than probably what you think, because the truth is that we didn't have residual income for the first 10 years in the company, because the investments back then didn't have that. They didn't have 12B1s. And so it's a little different. But believe me, there is some decent money coming off of 1.7 billion. Okay. So that's something we have today. And it's just geometrically growing like crazy. Just can't, even if the market would drop 30 or 40%, we're still in great shape, because it's just, there's 10,000 people a day reaching age 65. So we're just trying to get more people on the street, and so I mean, it's a really big thing, because people have a good job. They have a good job. Everybody's a pro when the market's going up and economy's zooming. Hey, everything's great. When it goes the other way, like it did in 2008, right? And then before that, at 9/11 in 2001, shortly after that, right? All of that, those were major downturns, weren't they? And so that's when people find out how secure their job is, okay? And it's like when your income stops, I think maybe the COVID thing maybe hit some people. It's like, man, I thought I had a few cash, but man, we can go through cash pretty fast around here, without a job. And so being able to have that residual income that comes in, that security of that base, and nothing like having a marriage where your spouse knows that no matter what happens, you're dead or alive, that money's still coming in. That's a great secure feeling for your spouse if you love your spouse. I mean, to me, I think that's so darn amazing to be able to give them that peace of mind so they don't have to work, till they're 99 and, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's really important to have not only from, in our business, we have overrides from a mega hierarchy, but also the residual income off of the investments. And I mean, even the small products like auto and home or legal protection or one of those two, okay. They give you these statements when if you're ever going to use your Social Security, right? We're going to give it away, but we're not using it. But they won't even let us give it to us, because it's we make too much money to take it early, And but our residual off of auto and home and legal protection is bigger than both our Social Security checks.
Wow. I mean, isn't that it's just wild. I mean, it is wild to me. I mean, seriously, some of these checks that come in consistently all the time, it's mind-boggling because you just think, you just even one override check, I'll get an override check and I'll look at it and it'd be $1,000 or something like that. And I'll think, somebody out there, the majority of America had to work an entire week, right? Maybe a week and a half in most cases, right?
Yeah.
To generate something that just came into my account after somebody last night, one person in the organization wrote one sale, like an entire week, and I wasn't even there. And so I just think it's so important, if you're listening out there right now or watching this right now, please, whatever you can do to get yourself in a position to create a lot of reoccurring income is what you should be thinking about. Jobs are fine. And if you got to keep a job right now, that's wonderful. If you got to, do something on the side part-time or whatever, and we'll teach you how to do all that kind of stuff. But if you got to have a job, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's got to be an exit plan from that job, because if you want the lifestyle that Jim just explained, the ability to be able to call your own shots, in my opinion, there's only one way to get that, and that's to have massive, passive, reoccurring income that never stops. And the only way that I've found how to do that, and Jim, you might have some other ideas here, but the only way that I've understood how to get that is you got to build a business. You got to recruit people and train people and develop people and help a lot of other people get what they want. And so what are some of the other things, Jim, looking back, did you do that you think, because again, you're one of the most successful people in the history of the company. What are a couple of things that don't try to be modest or humble or anything like that. Let's be honest, okay? Millions of people have been recruited in this deal. You are one of the most successful, you and your business and your family and your, so anyway, what are some of the things that come to your mind that you did differently on why you had success and so many people didn't?
I'll get to that, but let me just kind of address one other thing that we just kind of spin off of what we talked about a second ago. One of the things that I keep selling all the time is the power of distribution. If you think about Amazon or Walmart and what Walmart did to the mom and pop shops around the country 40 years ago, 50 years ago when they started in, Amazon changed to retail. Everybody knows those stories, right? Well, that is happening right in front of people's eyes in the financial service business. because we just bought a company for the first company we bought. Okay. And so I'm on the pilot committee, a pilot group that's actually launching the new, senior health program. Right. And so the power of distribution is what I want to talk about. Is like, it's worth going through some people, finding the hungry and the ready, and getting these people going, because I don't have all the RVPs in the world, but we have 110. And so if, I just try to be as modest as I possibly could. And so this is going to add somewhere between 50 and 100,000 a year to my income, in just, even though the product is only going to be sold 6 months of the year. It's just crazy. And so just to think about that is why, because we have a distribution house of 110 and 2,500 licensed people. So if you think about that, there's a lot of people with more people, and that, at the end of the day, just on that size though, being able to affect your life that much, I said, like a lot of people at McDonald's, when they came out with McSandwich or whatever, next thing with an MC in front of it, it doesn't matter. They just already have a distribution system built. Same thing here. People have to understand the power of that. And I always sell that. I think they can't hardly fathom that in early days, but if they just put one foot in the other, they can, And so what was the other question about?
I just
early.
Yeah. So some of the things that maybe, how are you different? Why were you different? What can we gain from what you went through early on?
I always did was I was full-time early, and they always said, you got to stay in business long enough to build a business. And that was the thing I hung my hat on, trying to write business of some kind all the time. So there was always cash flow. Okay. There was always money coming in, whether there's chargebacks, slow pay systems of the early days with snail mail checks and all that stuff. Right. None of that mattered. What really mattered was, did I have any new stuff coming through the front door? And so I knew that if I could write it myself, I can control my destiny. As I focused on that, I know you did that same thing, is where we actually, just write the business ourselves and field train new people along the way. And if they quit, I didn't care, but we're still writing business and creating income. And so I always that was my thing. I always hung my hat on and I had lots of awards in the early days because we always were out there doing it and didn't care what other people said and just focused on that. So doing it every day, making sure you're, stay in business long enough to build a business and just get away from ever worrying about what other people think.
Oh man, that's good stuff. Well, Jim, this has been absolutely incredible. This has been so much fun to hang out with you today. And I really mean this. I mean, you and Mary are a couple of my favorite people in the company. And I love hearing you, because there's so much wisdom, there's so much knowledge, there's just so much history to what you understand in this industry, in this company. And, you're the real deal, man. I mean, you're one of the greatest guys I know. And I just hope that, that people reach out and try to find you, because I know that there are people in Kansas or even, around the country that are kind of watching you right now, and they're going, you know what, I'd like to be in business with this dude, and I want you to kind of tell us some places that they can go to be able to reach out and find you, so they can have a conversation with you if it makes sense.
Well, thank you. And you and Karma are the same way. We feel like, you guys have been, we've traded back and forth working with each other for many, many years, and spent a lot of time on the beaches of the world together. So great job. And you've been such an inspiration to us with your social media presence. And so congratulations on the success that you've had with that as well. So continue that. Keep growing. One of the things that I think is we've had a lot of fun with, and where people can maybe find us, is bornforthis.online. If they go to bornforthis.online, a few months back, a couple of years ago, we started evolving into where we rebranded ourselves in so many different areas. And so whether it was a landing page, motion graphic videos, profile videos, all kinds of technology pieces that to animate and to automate the business and make it very streamlined. And so somebody coming in today, even though they're not my age, they're going to be saying, this is the coolest business I've ever seen. I wanted to attract that kind of business. And so we've been able to really create that. And it's just so fun it keeps us young for sure. We have a blast doing it. And, I think that's the thing, is just bornforthis.online is our landing page. And if you can go there, you can get in contact with us. Our links are all there, and you can get connected with us from that. So that's probably the easiest thing.
Good stuff, man. Well, Jim, we're gonna wrap it up, and I just want to thank you so much for being a part of Wealth on the Beach podcast. If the audience could do me a huge favor, make sure that you share this podcast. Make sure you reach out to Jim some way, somehow, and say hi and say, hey, I heard you on Wealth on the Beach podcast. It's so awesome. Love all your information. Love to hear your story. And I would really appreciate if you would do that. And, let's try to get this podcast, this YouTube video, let's try to get it out to as many people as possible and share the dream. Because the dream is alive, the dream is real, and it's possible, and it's doable, not just for a select few, but for anybody that's willing to pay the price, for anybody that's willing to do the things that they know they should do so they can have what they want out of their life. And I think that the price is worth it. I mean, at the end of the day, this thing has been so worth it to be able to transform the future of my life, my family's life, my kids' lives, my parents' lives. Is just absolutely an incredible thing, and you deserve it too, as long as you're willing to go do the things that you need to do. With that said, I just want to encourage you to continue to dream bigger and bigger and bigger, get after it, but most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We will see you at the top.